call the License Committee to order. Roll call.
Taken?
Correction of minutes.
None that I'm aware of.
Item C, business. Number 1, discussion and possible action regarding recent issues with the temporary alcohol license issued to the Monroe Theater Guild and future course of action for similar temporary alcohol licenses.
Okay, this was discussed a few weeks back with the problems encountered with the license issued to the Theater Guild. And the committee asked that we bring it back for further discussion, I guess possible action, and how we want to go forward. I did draft a supplemental application that we can use along with the state prescribed form. I emailed that to all of you. A couple more things that we thought of this morning. Phil thought of one to add onto the form is hours of operation. We'll add that on, and also estimated number of attendees. And that's more if they're going into a small building, that they're not getting too many people crammed in there, that it's going to break fire code. So I guess I'll let the committee take it from there. I'm not sure where you want to go with that or what else you wanted to discuss.
There was one thing I saw in there. I'm just trying to pull it up here now. On the bottom, it had a signature of 2 officers, it said, and it was right near something else that talked about police, so I didn't know if they get confused whether they needed a police officer to sign it or if it's.
That would be 2 officers of the organization.
Yeah, I can change that. Thanks, Richard.
I didn't know if it would be confusing to some.
Believe me, people get confused, so I will change that.
They see officers, I think they're gonna.
Especially since it's right before the law enforcement.
Right by the law enforcement, so I thought, I can't get it pulled up. There we go.
So the retailer regs and the alcohol purchase from a wholesaler, I mean, what if they answer no? I mean, we just approve it?
Then I would say, well, we educate them, I guess, first of all. Otherwise, it could get denied.
Well, how do we verify that they're at, I mean, like how does the art or the art center order alcohol from a wholesaler?
They have to call the wholesalers, tell them who they are, dates, time, what they need it for, and then usually the wholesalers, if they question it, they'll call my office and verify, does this organization have a license for this certain date? They will call and verify with us before they sell.
So how would they know, and I can understand what Mike's saying, so, I mean, they couldn't just go down and pick and say,
Right, that
or
is,
Dixon buy their beverage market.
right, it's against the law, it's all these things in the state statutes that you have to buy. If you're selling at retail, you have to purchase from a wholesaler.
But is that our duty to enforce that?
But this isn't retail, is it?
Well, it basically is, yeah, they're selling to the public. It's called temporary retailer licenses. I mean, I guess you can look at it this way. Fred's an officer of the law, the Monroe Police Department. They can enforce state statutes if you need to, correct? Yeah?
We'd be the ones that would most likely handle the enforcement part of something like this. It isn't necessarily something we'd call the state, you know, the Department of Revenue to come down and enforce. They're like, why don't you just write a ticket? Some bigger, more in-depth investigation or something, we might ask them to come in and take care of, but for the most part, it would be our responsibility.
So they probably could go buy it at Beverage Mart, we'd never know, but it's, I mean, it's not on us to.
Right, they could.
But then they would be, and could get in trouble, obviously.
Right, if they got caught, like anything else, if somebody gets caught, they can.
Usually word of mouth is.
Yeah.
So if another retailer, for example, say another tavern in town, finds out that they're buying it, they're getting it really cheap and they're selling it here, they'll say something.
Yeah. And how many of these licenses do we issue a year?
Oh my goodness, I forgot to look up that number, but probably, depends on the year, 10 to 20 or more. If it's a cheese days year, the number seems to go way up.
I suppose most of the, like Swiss House, for example, they're ordering everything from
They're
wholesalers.
wholesale.
Right, right.
How do donated items fit into that?
Yeah, that
If
was,
it's donated from a wholesaler.
because I was gonna ask too, I mean, maybe it's an event, I don't know, Monroe Arts Center or something, and they're not really selling it, they're just providing it, is it still considered because they bought tickets to get in, or the organization?
Right, right.
It's,
You need that license to basically serve or sell, or even if there's an indirect charge. You have to get the license. Part of the laws regarding the license is you've got the retailer's license. Anybody with a retailer's license has to buy from a wholesaler.
I mean, that's not a real big issue to me anyhow, but
Yeah, and
I
guess
suppose
they
Fred
can-
could go, you could go in and say, I wanna see proof that you bought it from a wholesaler, if you really wanted to, if you thought there was an issue, or how.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that would not normally be something that you would get into on just a walkthrough of the place.
And I guess the reason I put the questions on here the way they are is to maybe create awareness with the people that are applying for the permit. So at least they think about it and, oh, I didn't know I needed to do that. Oh, maybe I better read that and see what it says, because it's just more to get it into their heads, I guess.
Or if they're trying to plead ignorance, you could say, no, look, you guys. two of us
Right, if
signed
they try to
this."
plead ignorance, then if there's a problem, it's like, well, okay, you said you read this and you understand, so now don't play dumb with me now.
Yeah, what did you mean when you said no, I guess.
What about a person has one of these licenses and then like a band brings their own alcohol in, or some group?
It depends on how it's set up. If we just are allowing, like during concerts, we have that area where we're relaxing the alcohol laws and letting people have open containers. It's not a licensed area, but we're just letting people have the alcohol there, beer and wine. But if they go into a licensed area, say the Theater Guild, when they have their license,
Right.
it's against the law for the holders of the license to allow people to bring other alcohol beverages onto their licensed premises. So like the roped off area, that's the sales area for the concerts, you could not allow somebody to carry in other alcohol there. For the Theater Guild, they cannot allow somebody to carry in alcohol into that premises. The same thing with a restaurant or bar.
Okay.
It's up to the license holder, they have to control it. They cannot allow other alcohol on that premises other than what they purchased from a wholesaler.
Okay. So it was brought up at the Theater Guild where people and the cast members have their own.
Right.
Even if it was brought for their own consumption,
Right, yeah.
it doesn't matter, it's there.
I just wanted to
See,
clarify.
the thing that people don't understand is that by getting one of these temporary licenses, they are a tavern in essence. The state doesn't change the rules for different types. It's a tavern, so it has to follow tavern type regulations and rules.
Now, the state form or application on page 2 of that says may be granted and issued only to 1 bona fide clubs, 2 state, county, or local fair associations or agricultural societies, 3 churches, lodges, or societies that have been in existence for at least 6 months prior to the date of application, 4 posted veterans organizations, 5 chambers of commerce or similar civic or trade organizations organized under Chapter 181 of the Stats. So, are we issuing these to entities other than those types?
No,
So these are all these are all nonprofit applications essentially.
yes, yes. I always look at them and make sure it fits the guidelines if they qualify for it.
So I couldn't say I'm having a block party and inviting all my neighbors
Right.
and go out and get a temporary permit for the street and
Right.
sell alcohol. I couldn't do that.
Right. The temporary ones cannot be issued to a private person or a private business. It has to be one of these entities that's most likely nonprofit. It was even more strict, and I think last year may have been the first year where they opened it up a little bit more so that chambers of commerce and some other organizations can also apply for these temporary permits.
So what is it with the Swiss House, is it expansion?
Expansion of a current
Okay.
license is
Yes.
what they do,
Right.
yeah.
In essence, they changed the physical description of their tavern for that night.
Right, on a temporary basis.
Yeah. Swiss House, French Quarter,
Yeah.
all those just extend.
So, yeah, I didn't realize you couldn't, I mean, not that, if you had a can of beer, you couldn't really walk in a bar,
That's correct.
really, I didn't know
Correct.
that.
I love one of the restrictions is, shows you how the wholesalers are controlling the process. No licensed clubs having any indebtedness to any wholesaler for more
Oh,
than
yeah.
15 days for beer.
Right, and
Yeah, you gotta go
lately,
through the whole thing.
You gotta go through the
Cause
wholesale.
you'll get, yeah, we get notified
We do,
if someone
yes.
is delinquent, especially that around June,
Mhm.
Really?
when people are
Oh, yes,
reapplying.
we do. And
Yeah.
usually I will call the entity and say, got this notice, so just so you know, we can't issue you a license until you get this debt cleared up, and usually they're
So
happy
there's
to get paid.
from Frank's or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Frank's,
yeah,
yeah,
Frank's.
mhm.
Yep.
Well, do we need to do anything with this?
I guess if you're okay with using the supplemental form, you can just give me the nod to implement this. Or if there's any other actions, anything you want us to do, just let us know.
I think it looks good, like I say, I think I'd change that wording, just, because it's right by law.
Sure, definitely will do that, thank you, Richard.
Do the licensed bartenders have to be licensed by us, or can they be licensed anywhere in the state?
No, it has to be in the city of Monroe. Once they get a bartender license in the city of Monroe, they are a legal bartender anywhere within the city limits, but only within the city limits. They can't go to Judah or Platteville or Madison or anywhere else.
We did change the ordinance when we did that about provisional licenses. So if I have a license in Madison and I would come down, it's pretty easy to get a provisional license. Carol, I think, can
Yeah.
issue that without going.
As long as they're licensed somewhere.
We've
Correct,
already met
yeah.
the criteria that the state requires.
So that's on a real short-term basis.
Right, there's small extra fees. Some people have done that, but we can issue them on very quickly. Now, there was confusion, which is what happened at this Theater Guild event also, is that each permanent establishment such as Baumgartner's, Swiss House, even the grocery stores, anybody that has a regular alcohol license has to appoint an agent for their business. That agent is the person responsible for the liquor sales. That agent is then considered to have the privilege of a bartender's license, but only for that establishment. So I think Rich is the agent at Swiss House, so he has an operator's license for there, considered to have it. But that doesn't make him legal to go bartend at Concerts on the Square or Baumgartner's or anywhere else.
As far as concerts on the square, does that just needs one licensed bartender?
Well, one that is there at all times, that can oversee all the serving being done and they can control it. If that person goes to the bathroom or leaves to walk away and take a phone call or something, then they're no longer legal. And it does explain that in the retailer's publication.
I do have a question, because I didn't realize you can take like a can of beer in the bars. So like when you have cheese days or I don't know, pub crawl, I don't know what's, because I think they can be out on the street or maybe not, pub crawl, I don't know.
Pub crawl, no.
Oh, okay, but-
Cheese days, concerts on the square. That's a little different.
So if they bought like from the beer tent and then they walked into Flanagan's or Baumgartner's.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to go in there
That's
with their
correct.
cup. I didn't.
They can
okay.
buy and walk out,
That's correct.
but not
They
buy
can't
and walk in.
into it.
Yes.
Okay, that's weird. Okay.
Yes, and the area, like for cheese days or for the concerts, you'll still see a roped area.
Yeah.
That's the sales area, that's the tavern. The rest of it is just the city's relaxation of the open container law. It's not licensing all of that territory. It would be, we wouldn't be able to do it that way because they'd be butting up against each other and stuff, you know, just. But yes, they're not supposed to walk in and out. So that's what we tell the establishments, have a sign going in that says no carry-ins, have a sign going out saying only beer and plastic, you know, that kind of stuff, so that, you know, they're taking some steps to prevent.
Control it.
Try to control.
I learned something. Is there anything else on this? Because we're moving on. I think everybody's right.
I think we're good.
Fine with.
Okay, good.
Item 2, current ordinance and application for permits for possession of live chickens. Mike,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike, take it.
No,
You requested it.
I'm looking at, what has changed from the previous application that has been?
Nothing has changed on this application. This is what we've been using.
Right.
I just, because you asked to discuss it tonight, I thought it may be helpful for you to have a copy of the application again.
Right, so the issue is, and I actually pulled out my deed tonight to read it, and no poultry, swine, horses, cattle, etc. in my area. And, you know, I guess the concern is avoiding or promoting litigation between residents. Meaning, if we pass a permit for Phil, who's living next to Chris, and Chris doesn't like chickens, and your deed says no chickens, so all of a sudden we've given Phil a permit, and then you're in court suing Phil to get rid of the chickens. I mean, is there a way to avoid that conundrum, if you will? And
Well, if it's in the covenants of, say, your subdivision, I don't think we have any control over any of that. That's something that's in your deed.
right, but by approving a permit in an area where there is such a covenant, we're essentially creating a situation for litigation between homeowners.
I've got an idea. On the second page where it talks about that restriction, how about if we put a comment in there, something like, this does not overrule covenant for, or it is, if there's a covenant, something like that, this is not valid.
It would be valid.
This does not
It just wouldn't be
supersede.
allowed. Right,
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
As
so,
far as the wording,
And it
just,
still wouldn't,
It
it
just
still
does
wouldn't
not.
prevent the situation that Mike's talking about, because we would issue a valid permit. I, as a neighbor, just only takes one neighbor, even if there's, you know, all 15 like it, but one doesn't, that one can stop it until the covenants get changed.
right.
like a similar analogy is in my subdivision, we're not allowed to have prefab or modular homes. But under our zoning code, R1, under accessory dwellings,
Yeah.
you could certainly bring in a trailer.
Okay.
But so, if the city approves a permit for me to build a trailer in my subdivision, but my neighbors don't like it, I mean, it's the same thing.
Right.
So,
That's,
Which overrides.
which, yeah.
but then all of a sudden there's litigation,
Right.
and I've spent all this money and time and effort in getting permits and constructing the modular home, putting whatever, and the same thing with the chicken coop, and now all of a sudden we're litigating over something that the city we could have avoided that situation had the city not done it.
But if we have some statement on here saying that this cannot be enforced if covenant doesn't allow it.
Yeah, it doesn't supersede it or.
Right.
Well, isn't
Yeah.
that like
Kinda like a
you denied the
disclaimer.
one?
Yeah.
Correct.
We knew of that one. We
Right.
won't know always. I mean, if
Right.
Mike were to come in tomorrow, well, we know now.
Right.
Like you can't have chickens.
If he came in yesterday and applied for this and we didn't know about it and approved it,
Right.
now he's starting on his chicken coop and everything else, and Tom says, hey, wait a minute, what's going on over here? Why is he building a chicken coop? We can't have chickens. Then he comes to the city council and says, how did you approve that? Because we have a covenant that says you can't do it.
Some disclaimer that the person has to, and we can withdraw the
We could revoke the permit
Right,
if
revoke
we
the
found
permit
out
if we
later.
found out that it doesn't meet the
Right.
covenant.
And staff, whether it be a building permit or a chicken permit, we try to do all the due diligence
Yeah.
that we can. So if I see an address in question, if I think it's in Mike's neighborhood, the covenant might apply. And they said, you know, yeah, it's okay, I'd probably still, on my own, do a little more research on it before I brought it to the committee.
Well, whose responsibility is it to police that?
The associations and the members of it.
I mean, is there some way even with the application itself?
So if we allowed Mr. Mancini to build this chicken coop, his next door neighbor could say, you can't have it, and take him to court, and would probably win.
I would think so.
I mean, and the fact that there's 100 signatories, or according,
Yeah.
that, I mean, that means that there were a lot of concerned people at the time that all agreed that they didn't want chickens in the neighborhood.
Well, I mean, right on the application,
Yes.
it says, have you checked to see if any restrictions or covenants are in effect at the permit address?
Right.
It's right on there.
But if they say yes, they've checked, and there is one,
It doesn't preclude us from
enforce
this,
it.
right?
Yeah, it should probably be another question.
Maybe,
Do those covenants restrict it?
Restrict it.
Something
Right.
like that.
Or maybe-
According to,
Does your deed contain restrictive covenants to the ownership of poultry? Something along
Right.
those lines.
it should maybe say your covenant supersedes what the
Yeah.
city says maybe, or something to that effect.
and this can be revoked if,
Cause I'm just afraid, like you say, if we would have approved it, then like the city said I could do it, you know, they're.
I don't,
And
you know,
they-
which came first, the chicken or the egg? I'd rather not issue a
Right,
permit,
Right,
you
right.
know, and then have
Right.
we
Can
do
we
everything.
add that to the application?
Yeah, I can add to the application, you guys have really good suggestions. We'll put on there a statement, something about this does not supersede any covenants or deed restrictions that are in place. And we'll change the wording, does your deed contain restrictive covenants that prohibit the keeping of chickens? I can add that on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still, if I suspect that
What
it's
if
an
we-
area where there may be a deed restriction, I'll check on it further.
Could we say the permit is null and void if the covenant does contain the restriction?
Well, if they mark, no, there aren't any restrictions.
But the neighbor calls up and says, Carol, there's this restriction.
They lied or they
They,
didn't
they
know.
like, yeah,
Or
they,
they
Then we,
didn't know.
then we
They
can
were
revoke it. But I don't know if we could just flat out say it's null and void if they want. And could we?
We could revoke it. Yeah.
So
I
we
would-
take it,
Yeah,
yeah,
we'd have to
further
take
action.
action to revoke it. if they lie. Now, the question, the problem that you might have is, what if that person comes in and says, I don't know if I have covenants or not? Are you gonna make that person check or not?
I would.
They should
Would
have the
defer.
documentation.
Yeah, defer action until,
All the time, people don't have a clue if they have or not.
well,
Right,
I
the
have no idea.
case that we had with Mr. Mancini, he had no clue even what a deed restriction was.
Oh, I'm telling you.
so I guess it's an incomplete application until they have that
Yeah.
determined.
And then that could be your grounds for revoking a permit if they didn't answer the permit right. or the
Well, and to
application
me,
right.
it would be cheaper to check on that in the process of the application rather than end up in
Right.
litigation later.
You would think that if you're gonna buy a home, and one of the reasons you wanna buy the home is so you can have live chickens, the first thing you would do is check the deed to make sure you're allowed to have live chickens.
So give them the option of checking that out as part of the application process would be much less expensive than getting into the litigation later.
Right, right.
Or have on there that where I live, there are no covenants or something like that.
I can work on this some more and then we
Okay.
can bring it back again.
Okay.
I know I did talk to Echo Abstract a little bit too, and they said if somebody were to have to, whether it be the city, but I would not put this on the city, I think it needs to go on the applicant, to check on the deed restrictions. If they needed to do a search, it would be about $50 to do a title search, to make sure there were no restrictions.
If we were to change this, does it need to go to J&O or can we change? that?
Application, I
Well, if we're
don't,
just changing the application and we're not changing the actual laws or ordinance, it can be done at this level.
Because I had one thought, and I think other communities also require adjacent neighbors to approve it. I know that maybe is a problem.
Now that would probably have to go back to J and O if we
And I don't know if
That would be a G and O. I think if we start here and,
I'll work on some more language on the form and then we can bring it back and talk about it again. That's,
Okay.
you might wanna put two, you know, yes, no, or I don't know, and say, no reads.
I think we need to have them find out.
We need to have them say whether.
Or they just have to either know, yes or no, not.
just yes or no? That's
Yeah,
fine.
we need to have them commit to it. So if they, turns out they do have one, they mark no, they would revoke their permit. Not
I mean,
yes.
or the council could vote to adopt a policy that says we're gonna approve it whether or not there is a covenant. I mean, but I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't either.
No, because people build in certain areas because
Yes,
of the
Of certain
covenants.
things, yeah.
Mhm.
because they wanna live in.
Well, they buy there too, right?
Right, yeah, buy or build.
Covenants typically help on that.
They don't
How
wanna
does
live
the
there.
building inspector do it for, like, if there's something different in the covenant than the building code? Like what Mike mentioned, prefab houses and his.
Yeah, I'm not for sure how Ryan polices that.
Most of the time, restrictive covenants are for the landowners to enforce. So unless somehow he had knowledge of that, I would be surprised if he catches some of that, you know?
And
Right,
there's been
if
so.
R1 didn't allow mobile homes or modular homes, Ryan would never approve a permit in the first place, so I'd have to build it illegally. And that would get me in trouble, obviously, with the city.
Yeah,
And
they could
then-
not do a mobile home on lot. I know we have laws against that.
It's a modular.
A modular,
Put together kind of in pieces, or it's.
The old Wausau
No, and I
or Wick
did-
homes.
Wick homes,
Like a
yeah.
prefab that comes on
It's not
semi.
stick
Yes,
together.
yeah.
You just.
It's like tree house and built together.
Yeah.
yeah, and if it's a new construction, usually at the time of closing, all those covenants are gonna get laid out for the person who's buying the lot, so they know. I have to present my building plans to the neighborhood association. It's gotta get approved by the neighborhood association. We're getting kind of off track here with the agenda too.
Right, so Carol will bring back some changes. Item D, business by members.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, no motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.